Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today's video we're gonna show you the new car that we bought. We bought the cheapest BMW E91 wagon with a 330D engine and a 6-speed manual in it. And yeah, that's the car. And we're gonna show you everything what's wrong with the car, and we're gonna fix everything. And then we have not the cheapest car anymore. So the car has a rep from the previous owner, and I don't know, I'm not sure if I like the design or not, but I don't know, man. It's unique, let's just say it this way. The interior looks pretty okay. It doesn't have a lot of extras, but it's looking good. I mean, it's got navigation, it's got the Klima automatics, it's got cruise control, and that's basically it. Yeah, but we've got a nice engine in this car, and that's the important part. We've got a good engine. And yeah, we also got xenon headlights. Here the wrap is fucked up a bit, but we're gonna fix that. Now, pop the hood. So, what was wrong with the car? The car has some issues, like it was really oily below the intake, and that's the intake seals and the intake swirl flaps. But today we're going to remove the swirl flaps, and we're going to put new seals on the intake, and we're going to redo the whole vacuum system. We already changed the solenoid for the EGR valve under the intake. That was broken too. We already did a full service on the car. We changed oil and every filter. And now the car has, what's wrong with it? It has, I'm gonna show you later when we diagnose the car, it has faults in the ECU for every single glow plug. But that probably means that the glow plug relay is bad, that we need to change. Then we need to change some bushings on the front axle of the vehicle and on the rear as well. And there's not much more that needs to be changed. But yeah, let's just dive into, let's do the intake. We already did a mod on this car. Some of you guys saw it on Instagram, because these cars, they have like really ugly taillights from factory, and this whole part here, this one, it's all white and it looks so bad, and that's why we tinted these lights, and we let a little bit of white for the reverse light, and it came out really good. That was the first mod we've done to this car. The car is now on winter tires, 17-inch. They're okay. And now we're gonna put down the intake. Here, intake. Whoop. Yeah, we're gonna remove the intake, remove the swirl flaps because nobody needs them, and we're gonna show you how you guys can do it as well if you drive one of these cars. So the first thing you want to do when you remove the intake, there are two hex 5 bolts. Then now you need to remove the cabin filter. Okay, there's some 8 milli. You don't need to remove this one because the tab is broken. Okay. But there's one here, and one here. If your tab's not broken, one on this side, and 2 up more on the upper corner here and there. Now you can just take the cabin filter with this housing off, just like this. And after that, there are two more 8mm bolts. One is right below this thing, right over here, below this. Like that. And here you have 8mm. On the other side, same thing. When you undo these two bolts, don't forget to disconnect the electrical connectors for the hood open sensor thing. And for the, what is it called? The sensor for automatic recirculation for airflow in cabin when it stinks outside. In German we say Umluftsensor. Like that. This sensor and the sensor over here. After that, you want to remove your power cable, your positive cable. Just pull it out, and now you can lift this thing up. You need to pull it a bit because it slides under this, and now you can pull it up. Put it on the roof. And here we have intake. That's the intake. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's pretty oily down there. And we had the problem, if you guys have the problem that your car is leaking oil from the bottom side of the intake, from the swirl flaps, then you'd probably need to change the briefing for the crankcase. And in this model, it's the M57 N2 model. They put a really bad design briefer in here, and you can switch this briefer out for the older models like the E46, E39 with the same engine, and they have a better style briefer in it with an actual filter that probably gonna stop your oil leaks. So just for comparison, this is the original crankcase recirculation valve, and in the older cars you have here a filter in it, and this just works with a membrane inside, and sometimes they're fucked up and then your car leaks oil everywhere. And when you change this, put an old one, I think a new one, but from the old models, in your car, and your car will stop leaking oil. Yeah, now put down intake. We put it down these holes. Now we need to remove this back plastic here. There are two hex 5 screws. For that, before we need to remove these ones, strut tower, bars, whatever. There's one screw here and one screw is behind this plastic thing. Can't get it off in my hands now, but one screw is over there. Yes, see, one screw here, and other side here. It's straightforward. Remove this, remove that, remove intake, easy. If you unbolt this bolt, you don't need to remove it completely, just loosen it, and then you can pull out these struts, because they have like an open end, like you can just pull it out. Then you want to remove, there's 3 10mm screws down here, then you can remove the plastics, otherwise you won't get this plastic off. You need to remove the plastic to remove the other plastic, so you can remove the plastic intake. What do you say?
Very nice.
Very good. German engineering at its finest.
Yes.
So you need to remove this clamp. I already loosened it. It's for the EGR valve. You can put it like this, doesn't matter. Then this one, you can leave it like this. You need to remove these spring for the intake pipes. Then like this, wiggle it a bit and then it just will pop off. So after you remove this pipe, vacuum line right here, 10mm bolt for the dipstick. It's threaded into the intake, 10mm. This wire goes in this clamp here. Vacuum line for the brake booster in this clip. Or electrical connector for the sensor on top of the intake. Then we have a solenoid below the intake. Undo this 10mm bolts all to the back, and down here there are 11mm nuts in the intake. Remove them. After you removed all these bolts, you can lift the intake up. Okay, after a bit of fighting, we got the intake off. These things are your swirl flaps, and they act like this. See in the intake. And on this one, they actually look pretty good. Like on some engines, there's so much carbon built up in here. These flaps break and then they fall into your engine, especially on the first generations M57 engines. They are metal flaps, and then the engine sucked them in, and then the engine was dead. But on this newer style M57s, they're all plastic, so even if they break, you won't get a engine damage, engine failure. But you can put them out. Like, look how much oil is in here. It's oiling pretty much out of these swirl flap things. Okay, to remove these swirl flaps, there's 2 screws on every flap. 1, 2, they're T20. You remove them, then you remove the actuator, the vacuum actuator. There's 3 T20 screws. 2. 1, 2. Then you lift off this rod, and then after you remove these, you just can pull them out like this. And you could probably change, is there a gasket on? Yep. You could probably change just this gasket here, but I don't know if you can get them like just a gasket from BMW, I'm not sure. But however, just remove them and then they're gone, and then very good. Okay, after that you put these aluminum brackets in. Just bolt them here in like this. But before you do that, you want to make sure that you clean everything up, because you can't put something in here, it's so nasty. Okay, when you're done, your intake should look something like this. We've put the plugs in, put new seals on, and now, okay, we just need to put the actuator back on, because we're gonna leave them. What we're also doing is we redo every vacuum line in the car. We bought some silicone vacuum lines, and our problem was, look at this. You see, everything is filthy and soaked in oil. Look, what the fuck. And that's just because, or I think, I'm not sure, but I think it's just because these seals and the SwirlFlaps leaked oil. And now we're gonna clean that with brake cleaner. Good old brake cleaner. Okay, now we cleaned everything up here. no more oil, at least not this much as it was before. Also, we replaced all these vacuum lines, and when you do this, there's one line it's pretty hard to replace. It goes, wait, it goes down here, right between the engine mount and behind, I can't film it, guys, sorry, behind this ground cable down there. There is a vacuum line, and this vacuum line goes to the engine bushings because they're controlled with vacuum. So if the car is in neutral and, for example, you stay on a traffic light, the engine mounts are a bit smoother, and this vacuum line is a huge pain in the ass to replace. But we did everything. That's the intake manifold. We mounted this back on here, so the car still thinks it has the swirl flaps. And now we're gonna put the intake back on, and then we're done for today. Okay, now we put everything back together. It looks like new. And now we're gonna make a test drive and look if the car has any faults in the ECU. Okay, car is running very good now, and we put it on the computer. And before we had the issue that the actual air mass was jumping between 300 and 500, and now you see it's kind of stable, but that's okay, I would say. And first I thought it's the MEF sensor, and I changed it for a new one, but then we found out it isn't the MEF sensor, and then we found a lot of vacuum leaks. We fixed every vacuum leak. We fixed the whole vacuum line setup, and yeah, now it looks pretty good. Now we're gonna see which errors the car has. F4, read. Just one sec, we have 11. Let me clear them and clear info memory, yes. Okay, now read again. We have 6, and that's probably all 6 glow plugs, because that's the glow plug ECU that we need to change. We have glow plug cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's basically it. Before we had, what did we had? We had like 13 errors with throttle body. Okay, that was because we disconnected it. But we had fuel filter. Yes, we had a fuel filter issue. But then we changed, as we serviced the car, we changed fuel filter, and that's also gone. Yeah, it looks great now. And the car runs pretty smooth now. See, I'm happy how it turned out. Now we're gonna go for a little test drive, and that's it for today's episode.